My
So,
name's, hi, my name's Annette Zaccari. I don't think I've met everyone, so it's really wonderful to meet new friends and seeing my old friend, well, my long-standing friends. I shouldn't call you old.
Yeah, what the heck?
I know, what's up with that, right? But anyway, it's nice to have everyone here tonight because I'm really looking forward for a lively discussion. I'm hearing your experiences, sharing mine, and letting you know a little bit more about the emotional impact of spinal cord injury, which all of you are experts on how your emotions affect you. But we're going to talk about generally some of those emotions that people are often challenged with. And then my partner, Eric, is going to talk a little bit more too about tools for healing, tools for coping, and strategies to really manage those emotions in as positive a way as possible.
mhm.
I wanted to, let you know who I am and who Eric is too, especially for those of you who don't know who I am. I have been a counselor for close to 40 years in the Scottsdale East Valley area of Arizona. And a majority of my practice are people who've experienced some neurological injuries, spinal cord injury, brain injuries. And 70% of the people I work with have had some type of injuries that resulted in very much life-changing disability, as well as working with their families. And when I mean families, that's pretty global. Friends, spouses, children, partners, whoever is in their lives who care about you are also part of the dynamics of healing. So I work with a huge group of folks as far as the recovery from spinal cord injury is concerned. On a personal note, too, I'm also a family member of somebody with a spinal cord injury. So I like to always bring that perspective to our discussions because I think it's important to understand that in many cases, the family members' emotions mirror the person who was injured. So
Yep.
when my family member who had a spinal cord injury is feeling depressed or is feeling anxious or is feeling frustrated throughout his whole recovery, and even till today, I find that my emotions kind of mirror his. When I get frustrated because another caregiver called out sick and I have to go take care of him on a day that I worked all day, and then the day that I have to go back to work, I get that, sadness and depression or, that frustration, which I'm sure he feels too when somebody calls out sick. So those are, I just wanted to bring that perspective to you because our emotions are also an important part of this discussion we're having today. And I always learn so much from Eric as far as developing tools for me to also cope, as well as for
Oh,
me to share that with clients too, as far as, and family members, of my own family members for that matter, on how to really cope and deal with this. So I think we have somebody new come in. At any rate, I would like to really begin by letting you, of course, get to know Eric and I, but I'd also, because you're new to, some of you are new to me, I would really appreciate if you wouldn't mind sharing your story about your experience with your spinal cord injury, or if you're a family member, share that experience as well. But I would really welcome that opportunity to get to know you better. And because we don't have a lot of folks here, it'll help us, get to have a good discussion if I could get to know you. But before we do that, Eric, I thought maybe you might want to introduce yourself to everyone and share a little bit.
yeah. So my name is Eric Kenning, and I work at the Arizona Spinal Cord Injury Association. I have had my disability since birth. It was a birth injury, spinal cord injury during labor, and I've dealt with limited ability to use my bladder. I've dealt with spasticity. I've also dealt with a lot of built-up emotions that comes with having a disability. Um, you know, a lot of stuff built up around relationships, around frustrations, on people's attitudes, and all that stuff. And so I went ahead and I got a degree in psychology, and I traveled around a bit, and then I landed in Arizona. And in Arizona, I also, during my college degree, I did a lot of swimming. I was a real heavy duty swimmer. I went to the Paralympics in 1992. And from that whole experience, I started getting into mindfulness and a kind of a mindful meditation, awareness, that whole thing. And throughout my college career, I really focused on that. And then I went in and got my master's in social work here at ASU, here in Phoenix. And later got a certification in mindfulness, cognitive behavioral mindfulness therapy. And so I have a certification in that, and also attention interpretation uh, awareness. So those two are both mindfulness based arenas. And then I utilize those tools on a daily basis to help me manage my emotional state. And I also have done some counseling. I did about 1.5 years of counseling as well. So I got a real good taste of a lot of things, and I hope to share some of that, and I hope to get to know you all better too. So that's just a little taste of who I am. And
Great.
and yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pass it on to the next person.
Okay. Can you name somebody, Eric?
Karen, why don't you? Does everyone know Karen?
Of course. Karen's the
Knows
woman.
me.
Everyone knows
I know
Karen.
Karen.
Well,
I was typing. So you want me to? Okay, I'm
Yeah.
Karen. I work at the Spinal Cord Injury Association. I've been injured 12 years. I'm the community resource specialist and peer mentor coordinator. What?
12 years?
11 years. Sorry.
No?
Oh, I've been at the association 11 years. I've been injured almost 18 years. Sorry, John's in the background.
Oh, I was going to say, we got the fact checker back there.
Yeah. It's a TBI thing. He checked my facts.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I forgot where I was now. What else do we need to know?
Peer mentor coordinator.
Peer mentor coordinator. I do the women's support group. I help set up all these educational classes. Kind of off topic, if you ever have any ideas what else we could do, let us know. We enjoy working with Annette. She's full of lots of information and very helpful with everybody. Everybody loves attending her sessions.
Oh, thanks, Karen.
So, yeah, thank you. Let's
Okay.
see, who is next?
Yeah, pass it off to someone.
Lori Lynn. Lori Lynn, this is her first time here. So
Welcome, Lori Lynn.
yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I can see you guys, but I don't know if you can see me, so
No,
I'm not sure. Anyway, Eric and I have a lot in common there. So I also got a master's in social work from ASU. And I have done mindfulness. I have a certificate in mindfulness as well. I did an 8 weeks course in mindfulness training through Hospice of the Valley. I worked there for 13 years until my injury happened. Basically, what had happened is, I don't know if you know what Bertolotti syndrome is, but it's where L5, it articulates into the say congenital abnormality. But so in 2010, I started feeling pain, went to an orthopedic surgeon, and they finally found it and did something about it in 2011. And it was grown into, the L5 grew into, like I said, the sacrum and the pelvis and the ilium. What he did is he shaved down the L5, okay? So it's an excision of the transverse process. And
Mm.
2 years to the date later, in 2013, same symptoms. So I went to the same orthopedic surgeon. He said, no, the bone can't grow back, blah, blah, blah. He did an x-ray, and sure enough, it had grown back, actually deeper than the time before. It ended up being an emergency surgery. My husband was also planned for surgery, so we ended up in
Are you still there?
Mhm. I think we lost Lori Lynn, or at least maybe the audio.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think we lost your audio.
I'll send her a chat real quick.
Okay.
sharing a room.
Yeah.
7 years last week would be the anniversary of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I'm here.
Okay, good, good.
I'm here.
Okay.
Hang on. I'm still here.
Yeah, your audio keeps cutting in and out.
Yeah, your
You
audio.
cannot hear me?
We can hear you now. Your audio is cutting in and out, though.
Okay. Okay. So, anyway, what part didn't you hear?
Well, the last we heard was that about your surgery.
Okay. So, did you hear about the second surgery?
No.
Okay. So, the first surgery was in 2011, where they shaved the bone down, the excision of the transverse process. Okay. And then 2 years to the date later, so in 2013, the same thing happened. The bone grew back through again, but it was deeper. So I went back to the orthopedic surgeon. Can you hear me still?
Yes.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, we could hear you.
Okay. So in 2013, I went back to the same. It ended up being an emergency surgery in 2013. My husband also had the surgery at the same time. So we were in Boswell together. We shared a room. And
Wow.
when they did the surgery, it was an orthopedic surgeon, like I said. If I would have had time to plan, I would have asked a neurosurgeon to do it. It was very complicated surgery. And as soon as I got out of surgery, although they hurt really, really bad, my bladder didn't work.
Mm.
I was confused, all those things. So they tested me for a stroke, which was obviously negative. I wasn't able to communicate with them to tell them what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think we lost your
We
audio
lost you
again.
again. We lost your audio.
And I was there for, I don't know, a couple of weeks in the hospital while they were trying to help me walk. They finally sent me home with 8 weeks of physical therapy. And basically nothing was the same again.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Lori Lynn,
Oh no.
we're losing
I
your
don't know
audio.
why.
Yeah, we're losing your audio. So,
gosh, and
is it all right if we go to another could we go to another person?
Can you hear me?
We're having a really hard time hearing you. Would you mind if we came back to you to hear the rest of your story? We can't really hear you.
All right. Connected and connected again. Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me at all now? Okay, I'm
Yes.
gonna leave the group on this device and join on another one. So, let me in when I come back.
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, why don't we go to another, Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Sarah, and I had a serious spill back in 2018, and I already had degenerative disc disease, and but I had it in my T4, and when I fell, when I took my spill, it just totally messed everything up,
Sure.
and I ended up with an incomplete T4.
Mm.
Yeah. And you know what? It was like, yeah, when it happened, it was just as if, someone had switched a light switch. I just lost feeling.
That is a wonderful way of describing exactly what it's like. Wow.
Yeah, but first, I felt like, do you know what a spinal shock is?
Hmm. Yes.
It's like where you might feel a sudden pain or whatever, but then it's just as if somebody switches a light switch. All of a sudden, you just lose feeling.
Right.
And it was like, I was like thinking to myself, I'm laying in my bed and I'm like thinking, what the heck is happening? Here I'm just gonna put it right here, about right here. I'm like, why can't I feel anything from there down?
Wow.
Yeah,
How
it was
traumatic.
frightening.
Of
It was
course.
really startling.
Hmm. I bet.
And yeah, they did a CT scan. I went to the hospital, they did a CT scan of my thoracic spine, and the doctor came back and said, well, it looks like you got an incomplete T4. And I was like, oh no.
Hmm.
I was thinking to myself, oh no. And so he more or less said, yeah, you're going to need a wheelchair.
Mm.
I was like, okay. I didn't know what to think when I first started using a wheelchair. I'm like, I'm used to walking.
Right.
I go 1 minute from walking, and then the next minute I, can't use my legs.
Hmm. A
And
very
it was
frightening
just,
moment. Wow.
yeah, it was. And every time I go to, like, if I touch right up here, it just sends a sudden spasm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
I can relate to that because same here. I got one spot on my body. If you touch it, it just sends me.
Mm.
and it's like, oh dear, then I'm finding myself going and reaching on my whatever, my shelf, whatever, I'm reaching for my baclofen tablets. And then you want to know one of the worst things that I do not like about having this is, I go through periods when I can't go to the bathroom.
Hmm.
And I'm like, oh dear. And then I got to go pull out a catheter and use it.
Hmm.
That is one of the big complaints about having a disability. I mean, not that having a disability is a luxury or anything, but and I'm kind of joking when I say that, but one of the big complaints is that, the bowel and bladder issues that people have. I mean, it's a big deal. I don't know anyone that has a disability that doesn't have that issue, really. So yeah, I can understand your frustration. I can't tell you how many times I've had some very inopportune moments.
Hmm. Yeah.
And before I became paralyzed, things like that never dawned on me, how a paralyzed person urinates or has a BM. You just look at a
Yeah.
person in a wheelchair and you just say, okay, they can't walk.
Right.
All of these other side effects,
Right.
You have
you,
an idea, right?
as an able-bodied person,
Right.
I never would have imagined.
that there are numerous other issues that you deal with besides just not being able to walk.
And it's like, you know what? I have to admit, I was looking in one of the Abilities 360 magazines, and I saw a lady in a wheelchair, and you know what? Yeah. She also injured at save level. I was like, that's never going to happen to me.
Right.
And you know what? Come February 24th of 2018, the unspeakable happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like thinking to myself, oh no. And I'm like thinking to myself, how am I going to, you know, it's like, yeah, I'm a participant with Daring Adventures. I don't know if you know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I'm like thinking to myself, how am I going to continue participating with them? I can't walk. I'm in a wheelchair. I've got a spinal cord injury.
But you know what? You've done it.
Yes. You know what? Not even after a year of being injured, I'm back out there on the Phoenix Summit Challenge with them.
Good for
I'm
you.
back out there camping at the Riparian Preserve with them. And then, you know, a few months, actually in the September 2019, I'm out there at the Grand Canyon camping with them. And then before I know it, I'm doing another Phoenix Summit Challenge.
Wow.
And I'm like, how am I doing these things?
Yeah. Sarah,
it's
you're
like,
amazing. You're amazing.
You know what? They reached over and backwards and forwards for me to make sure that I can do this.
Good for you.
And you know what? I turned down, back in 2017, I turned down a mainstream expedition with them. Why? Because I was, you know, I was like, I already had degenerative disc disease of the spine in my T4, and I'm like thinking, you know what? I can't do this. I'm already got a significant disability.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, now I wished I could have done it. But back then I was scared to do it.
Yeah. Well, that was all the uncertainty and fears that you must have been feeling.
Yeah, and you know, I'm like thinking to myself, wow, what's holding me back now, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, especially right after getting injured, you know, I thought to myself, I'll never be able to participate with them ever again. And yet I'm out there doing whatever.
Good for you.
And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I did it.
Yeah. What an accomplishment. Boy, thanks for sharing that, Sarah. That's amazing. You know, you are a picture of the theme that I wanted to discuss tonight. So thank you for sharing that.
If they get another, when this thing is fizzled out enough to where they can have in-person activities, they're talking about having another mainstream expedition in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I think I'm going to do it.
Good.
Because you know what? I want to be proof. I want to be living proof that people with spinal cord injuries can get out and do things.
Yeah, I think you already are.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you know what? If I wasn't in default on my student loans right now, I would go and possibly get a degree in recreation therapy. No, recreation, outdoor recreation.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I want to be proof that people with spinal cord injuries can.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that, Sarah. I wanted to pass it on now to Valerie.
Right.
Valerie, would you like to share a little bit of your story?
Sure. I'm 55, a dwarf, as well as a paraplegic. So I have a little bit of a double whammy with my short arms to be able to do some of the things like bowel care on my own. Due to the dwarfism, I had 5 previous back surgeries between 2003 and 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And then spasticity started out of nowhere with one leg, and I had surgery at the T12 level, and it helped for a little while, but then like overnight, it not only got worse, but affected the other leg. And so then I had a neurosurgeon try again with the T12 laminectomy to open it up. And when they did that, I had a spinal stroke. And that rush of blood did the damage. And I was in Tucson when that happened, and they sent me up to Phoenix for at Barrows. And at the time, my doctor here in Tucson told me I was going up there for rehab. And when I got up there, the doctor said, "Oh no, your doctor told us you're not here for rehab. You're here to learn how to live and function as a paraplegic. Nothing's coming back." And
Oh,
my
Wow.
doctor just didn't have the cojones
Yeah,
to tell me that.
yeah.
so you found out that
Found
way?
out that. What a
Wow.
way to find out. Oh my gosh,
In a
Valerie.
different
Oh.
city,
Wow.
I was by myself with no family around. Yeah, it was quite the shock. I am amazingly blessed with 4 siblings who, like you said, Annette, mirror everything I'm feeling.
Mhm.
And I have been nothing but supportive. One of my sisters came from out of state within 48 hours. And I was at Barrows for a month, assisted living for about 6.5 months while I had my house worked on and got help set up with bowel care. And I have been home for about 1.5 years on my own, living. I live alone, but I do have daily help with
Okay.
showers and bowel care and a little bit of housekeeping. And the reason why I was so gung-ho about joining this one is to participate and hopefully learn all of the things you're talking about, and that the emotions, the how we cope, tools. I'll take anything.
Good. Well, thank you, Valerie, for sharing that. I mean, that, what a journey. What a journey. And you're still on it. And I know that we'll certainly want to hear more too of your experience. And Eric has some wonderful, wonderful tools to share with you, really good hands-on ones that I think you're going to find very, very useful, very helpful. So did you want to add anything else before we move on to someone else?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
just appreciate being here. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing your story. Wonderful. Well, let's pass it on now to, is this Sweden? What's that?
Sweden.
Okay. How would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, my name's Ralph Sweden, and I'm 76 years old. And my spinal injury started back in 1964,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a hernia, and when they took it, it was cancer.
Oh,
And I was good until 1983.
mm-hmm.
And it all came back. And they wanted to radiate me. Well, back in 1983, they radiated my whole body from the neck to the bottom of the buttocks, front and back. and they killed the cancer, and that was over a period of 1 year.
Mhm.
In it, my voice isn't very good. It was over a period of 1 year. They did this radiation therapy on and off, and they killed the cancer, but they injured the nerves and blood flow in my spine. And
Dear.
I didn't know what was going on. I went from leg braces to crutches, and then 7 years ago, I went into a chair, like where I can't walk anymore.
Okay.
And I also have muscular dystrophy, which has affected my throat. I have feeding tube, can't swallow, and the doctors don't know how much is the muscular dystrophy as far as my injury or the radiation damage. But I had an EMG test, and there's I have hardly any movement in my legs, very little. My feet are numb, but my legs, I can feel my legs. I have a lot of nerve pain, which I just got to deal with it. And I have a lotion that my doctor gave me that I use only when I need it. I just rub it on my legs and shoulders. And my upper body started getting weaker in 2018, where my arms are getting, my right arm is really weak. And I work out each night, and all I can lift is 3 pounds. But I still roll my own chair.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's my story. I just want to keep maintaining myself and keep pushing myself. Hard part about living like this is I'm fearful that I'll lose my arm strength as well as my legs.
Sure. Of course. Wow. And I'm sorry, what was your name again? Your first name?
Ralph.
Ralph. Okay. Thanks, Ralph. Wow. What a journey you've been on. I'm impressed with how you are still saying, I'm pushing myself forward. I'm still going to try to do as much as I can and try to maintain as much independence as possible. That's really a remarkable. It's wonderful that you're still pushing forward.
Yeah.
Good for you.
It's not what we wanted to do when my wife and I are both retired. Not our plans, but I still drive, and I got hand control, and so we do enjoy getting out. But I have good days and bad days. It's injured my lungs as well, where I take breathing treatments.
Of course. Well, thank you, Ralph, for sharing your story. What a journey.
I'm here to learn. So
good. Well, and I'm hoping you're here to teach too, because I love hearing everyone's journey, and I think sometimes the best things I've ever learned were from other clients that I've worked with and family members, and have helped me to understand, how to best be of service. So thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, and we have Nick. Nick, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Nick Pelland. I was stabbed in 2011. I'm a T6 through T8 complete injury. I live in Glendale with my fiance and 2 of my kids.
Okay.
What do you want to know?
You said you're a T6, T7?
T6 through T8.
2, 3, T8. Okay. And how long ago was this, Nick?
2011, I got stabbed.
2011. Okay. So relatively new, but not really.
Right.
Okay. Are you working again, or,
No, I'm not. I'm with Voc Rehab, but I'm trying to get back to working, but I've just ran into some GI problems, some upper GI problems. trying to figure out what's going on with my stomach, having some issues.
Of course. Of course. Well, I
That's got to be
appreciate,
frustrating.
yeah, exactly. And you're working with folk rehab. That's great. Good,
Yeah.
good. Do you, and you said you live with your family, your children?
Yeah,
And
with my fiance and 2 of my children. My
okay, good, good. How have your children adapted to, you know, your injury and the changes in your life?
It happened. My injury happened in a really difficult age for them. I went into depression and kind of went into hiding into my room, and I was there, but I was absent.
Sure.
So they have a lot of anger towards me because of that.
Hmm.
You know, so yeah, they trying to still rebuild that.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to learn how to take care of you before you could take care of them.
Good
Right.
point, Valerie. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. And there's still time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing. And I appreciate you sharing your information about the kids too. But this has been a journey for you, and you're still on it. But you know, as you can hear from some of the other folks here, you have a lot of support to walk towards.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. I know there's somebody else was
There, Clayton is here, but he's not on video. But
okay.
maybe he'd be willing to say a couple words.
Sure.
Oh, there he is.
It's me. I haven't jumped in either yet.
Yep.
Oh, Sharon. Okay. I knew Sharon was
Clayton
there.
and Sharon, Clayton, and Allison. And then,
Okay. Okay. So Sharon, do you want to go? Then we'll go Sharon, Clayton, and then Allison. Okay.
Sure.
Go ahead, Sharon.
So I am a T5, T12, complete paraplegic due to a car accident 7 years ago. And it'll be 8 years come this October. And I rolled about 4 or 5 times, and I fractured my neck. And obviously broke my spine in 2 places. I tore my ACL and I broke my pelvis all at the same time.
Wow.
So I took 3 months in. I was in the ICU for 15 days. They said I wasn't going to make it past the first 24 hours, but I did. It put me in a medically induced coma for 4 days to do the surgeries to fuse my spine. But everything, I made it through. I had some, lung issues, but so I rehabbed I was gone for 7 months. I was married at the time of the accident. The kids were 2, 4, and 7. So they were very little. Luckily, they weren't in the car because they would have died because the car completely smashed all the car seats and everything were down to the bare minimum. And my son's booster chair flew out the back window. So was down the freeway. So they definitely wouldn't have made it. So that's all I cared about. I'll take this any day over that.
Right.
But I really didn't have time to be depressed. I wanted to be, go back to being a super mom and do everything that I wanted to do. So I didn't go through that depression stage. I had one in diapers, one in, potty training, and one had just gotten into, first grade. So it was difficult transition to have to go into that. And then of course I got divorced a year post injury. He couldn't handle my kitty's saying hi. Making his debut. My kitten. So she.
Hey, kitten.
You can't say. She likes to press.
There we go.
You get to see the whole version of that cat.
Right.
Beautiful.
Goes over my computer every time I'm up here. I'm like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Cats know.
I think they do it on purpose. But now my kids are 10, 12, and 15. One just got his driver's permit, so good, stay off the roads.
Mhm.
Valley. Stay off the roads. No, I'm kidding. He's doing really, really well. So, I mean, it did impact them. You know, my youngest wasn't, you know, she was only 2, so she doesn't really remember me any other way. My 4-year-old, you know, she was 4, now she's 12. She does have the most PSTD, you know, of all of the kids. Just, you know, if I go out for long periods of time, she stays up until I get home. She's, you know, worried about me coming home.
Aw.
I have to check on, you know, I have to call her if she's at her dad's, even if it's like 10 or 11 o'clock. She's like, you know, call me and make sure that, you know, you're okay. So, but yeah, everything's good, to be honest. I
Good.
mean, I've really taken life in a new perspective. You know, it's been live for today because tomorrow's never promised. That was kind of the philosophy I got out of it, you know, this whole thing. And so I do now more things now than I ever did pre-injury. So I'll go skydiving. I got my scuba certification, so I'll be going to Cozumel next year since they postponed it from this year. I was supposed to
Mhm.
go this year. I'm gonna go to Italy in 2022 for my mom's 75th, and you know, I'll go kayaking, you know, camping, and you know, all that stuff. If you tell me I can't do something, then I'm just gonna do it just to prove you wrong. So,
You, you
there's no roller
said
coaster.
you didn't have time to grieve. Do
No.
you feel like you were cheated that opportunity to grieve your old life? Because I know
That comes
a
in
lot of people.
spurts. You know, I think that just, you know, over time it's gone through spurts instead of one long, drawn out period of, you know, being depressed. I was more depressed when my ex was living here because he would say, you know, really, you know, awful things to me. You know, like, I can't see you as a wife anymore, you know, and he would moan and groan to try and help me, you know, on and off the toilet or in and out of the bathroom, or he wouldn't roll me. He's like, I'm not, you know, you figure it out. So it made me more independent, you know, so I was more resentful of him, you know, with all the negativity
Mhm.
than, but then on the same token, I got more independent and learned how to shower by myself and, you know, learned how to roll by myself. I just watched YouTube videos and kind of figured it out on my own. But yeah, I always have those moments, you know, the kids will always say to me, you know, Mom, I really wish you could walk, when on certain things, you know, we may be outside or we may, you know, be camping or whatever the case may be, then there's something I may not be able to, you know, go as high or climb or chase them or, you know, things like that. So I've had my own little grieving processes that I'll just go into the bathroom and just, you know, like have my meltdowns, and then I, you know, and then it's right back to, okay, what do you want for dinner, you know, or, you know, so I'm kind of glad in a way that I didn't have that grieving process, that I just automatically went into,
Mhm.
you know, mom mode.
Mom mode, yeah. Well, thank you, Sharon, so much for sharing that. You know, one of the things I've learned as being a counselor for so many years is there is only one rule to grieving. There are no rules. That's
Right.
the rule. And you like Sharon was describing how she was able to get through that process of loss and then have to get back to her life. And all of us grieve in different ways, but the important thing is that you still keep going forward. So thank you, Sharon.
Yeah.
I think we had Allison. If Allison, would you like to share a little bit of your story?
You're muted.
I am
There you
muted.
go.
Sorry.
Oh, there you are.
Yes. Hi. I'm Allison. I work at the Arizona Spinal Cord Injury Association. I'm the public relations specialist, so I kind of handle our website, our social media. I'm all about communicating with people over, you know, the computer, especially now in these days that we're living in. I'm here today because I just want to hear your guys' stories. I think they're just inspiring, and I have a true passion for this community. I've been working now at the association for, oh my gosh, over 4 years now. So I've learned so much from my past 4 years with everyone here in this community. This community is wonderful. And yeah, I'm just here to hear everyone else's story and just kind of like listening and taking notes. So thank you for letting me be here today.
Thank you, Allison, for all the work you do for the association.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, and she just got married, so.
Yes, just got married last week.
Yay.
Oh,
Congratulations.
He wanted to show himself. That's my husband right there.
Oh, hello, husband.
Hello, husband. He's not looking anymore. Okay.
Oh, he's not looking at it. All right. And I think Clayton, you were going to share. Is Clayton there?
Yes, I am. Hi, Annette. It's Clayton Guffey.
Clayton.
Yes.
Hey. Oh my God. This is an old friend of mine. Oh my gosh. So nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So yeah, so I won't take much time. I just wanted to come participate. I saw in the newsletter that you were doing this, and I thought I would come, and I always like to listen to what you have to say. So
yeah,
this was a good opportunity. So.
Well, this is one of my favorite people in the whole world, right there. I'm pointing at you.
No.
I'm pointing at him like you could see. But Clayton Guffey is one of the best professionals I've ever worked with. So.
Well, thank you very much, Annette. That's high praise. I appreciate that. So.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Well, I think we have everybody then, right? Good. All right. Well, you know, the theme I would like to present tonight then is the slide that you see is that I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to be. And I think in some of the introductions, all of you talked a little bit about that. I think initially after spinal cord injury, and this happens to families too, is that we sometimes become what happens to us. In other words, we are so, you know, just engrossed with how do we now manage our lives. It's very similar to what Sarah was saying. Is like, what do we do now? What do I do now? How do I live this way? What do I do? How do I use the bathroom? How do I get in and out of the wheelchair? Who is going to help me? I mean, you really become enthralled with what has happened to you. But our goal is always to become what you choose to be. And it's a process. And some of the experiences that all of you talked about were just that adjustments that you needed to make. And with spinal cord injuries, those adjustments are very medically, physically, environmentally, sometimes with jobs. You know, I mean, I think even Nick was talking about, you know, going to vocational rehab and trying to get into a new position of a workplace situation. You know, Ralph talked about, you know, how do I accommodate my home, or what do I need to do to make those changes? I mean, all of you have brought to mind just those vast changes in your identity of who am I pre-injury, who am I now post-injury, and what does that look like? I mean, Valerie was a great example of just having this news so touching you in such a visceral way of now what? And then having to go on that journey of uncertainty and fear. Spinal cord injury, or after a spinal cord injury too, also brings not only the medical, physical, environmental, relationship, family changes, but also emotional. And that's what Eric and I really wanted to focus on tonight, was a lot of those emotional changes that you experience. And generally speaking, and some of you have already brought this up, the emotional impact of spinal cord injury. Many of you already talked about feelings of depression. I know that, you know, one of the things that I see, a theme in the work that I do, is that sometimes there's delayed depression too, because so often you're concentrating on rehabilitation, environmental changes, modifications, wheelchair seating, you know, all of the, you know, self-care. Yeah, yes, thank you, Valerie, another good example. All of those things become so much a part of what you have to concentrate on. Sharon talking about, I had to go be a mom. I had to be a mom. I had no other choice. I had to go back and do my job. And that sometimes the depression may not happen right away, And, you get that initial shock, and you have all of that trauma you're dealing with. And then when reality hits, when you're home, when you're going back to work, if that's a possibility, if you're looking at relationships in your family or loved ones or partners or spouses, then all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, now I have to, now I can concentrate on how I feel about this. And as I said before, there's only one rule in grieving. There are no rules. It's how you respond and how you react. Depression is often very much a part of that process. And so often, when I used to work in the hospital on the spinal cord injury floors, so often I found that the emotional impact was not something that we dealt with right away, because we were so busy getting people ready for discharge and having their own independent life. And I think it's an important piece that was missed. I know that we've integrated more and more of the emotional impact, and how is the family dealing with all of this, and what about your community and work? I mean, how is everybody coping? How's everybody dealing? Anxiety is another emotion. Of course, the anticipation. I think, Sarah, you brought up a really good of what's going to happen next. Just that uncertainty, the fear. What do I do now? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my family? How am I going to take care of my children? One of the things Nick talked about was just really sometimes, withdrawing, because you don't know what else to do at that moment. Your life has changed so incredibly, and we'll respond to that fear and uncertainty of our future by coping with the feelings of anxiety. And then grief and loss. And I think all of you touched on grief and loss, of what that feels like to have to identify yourself again, or re-identify yourself. Your role before was one thing. I worked, I was a spouse, I was active, I was very, sports oriented. I had, so much that I was doing with my life. I was socially active, I was busy. And then I lost everything about who I saw myself as being. And then you talk about some of the families, of how the families see you. And I know in my situation, the grief and loss was so profound for my family that when my mother was alive at the time, my brother Steve was injured, that she would have done anything for him. And loss was more like, I need to take care of my son and protect him, and never let anybody see him, or not let him venture out, or not let him, go have his life, because I need to take care of him. Grief and loss for families is just as profound as the fear of somebody who's dealing with, what do I do next? And then there's sometimes loneliness. I think if some of you might even can share some of your experiences of what that might look like. You are now a wheelchair user, or you have some limitations in mobility and not able to access your life the same way you used to, in a social way. And sometimes, then, a lot of the clients I've worked with have also reported this, is that some family members or some friends really struggle to re-identify the relationship. How do they relate to you? What do they say to you? Have any of you ever experienced that with anyone in your lives, of just, I'm uncomfortable, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do? And I've even had some folks that I've worked with say that they've actually lost friends who say, what, you're just not the same, or you just can't do the same things that you used to do. That is a profound sense of loneliness that could come over you. And loneliness and isolation. And also that loss of accessibility to your life. The life that you knew pre-injury. And it sounds like most of you have gotten, a lot of your environmental changes and modifications and equipment and care needs. And some of you are probably very independent and taking care of yourself. But one of the things that I profoundly feel that when I'm working with some of the clients with spinal cord injuries is that if I can help you have access to your life again, I can help you then deal with the depression and the isolation and the loneliness and the grief better. Because if you don't have access to your life, there's that just complete paralysis, not only being paralyzed physically, but also emotionally. And then, of course, the loss of identity. And I wanted just to briefly, throw out for a discussion. Have any of you experienced and are willing to share? If you can share a little bit of your experience with some of your emotions that you have felt. Yes, Sarah. I see
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, at first I was like thinking like I said earlier, I don't know if I'll do anything, the same that I did before. And, I'm like, it just like hit me. And yes, unfortunately, I ended up having about a severe depression in June of 2018
Yeah.
because I just totally lost it. And I ended up in the hospital for several days because of it.
Right.
And, now I'm in a fully accessible apartment. And, I have that level of accessibility that I need.
And that helps when you have access to your life. Absolutely.
But
Thank you.
first, you know what? With me, unfortunately, I wasn't able to, I was on Medicare and Access. And you know what? Unfortunately, they only cover certain types of wheelchairs.
Right.
And I couldn't get around too well. And then I finally got my quickie QRI and I'm getting around so much better.
There you go.
And
See,
you know what?
access to your life.
I have my good days and bad days.
Right.
But you know what? Especially when I go get a flat tire on my wheelchair.
That's a bad day.
But you know what? That's what this is for.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I've had a few flat tires in my wheelchair ever since I got it, but you know what? I know how to, I just like, you know what? I just brush it off, I pull out a fresh inner tube and that's it. And then I just pump it right back up.
Good. Well, then on the next slide, you can see some of that emotional impact of, and thank you, Sarah, because you're making some really good points, is that, all of these emotions impacts your mood. How it can manifest itself in anger. I think Sharon talked a little bit about feeling some anger towards her ex-husband at the time. Anger and frustration and irritability, all of the mood swings that often happen after an injury, just to normalize that for you. It's typical. And it also then starts to cloud that outlook on your life, where you look at your world through this veil of depression and anxiety when the initial injury happens, and without the support and the efforts and the tenacity of each of you to be able to really get to that problem solving level. And Sarah gave a really good example. When you get a flat tire, you know how to fix it now. It affects problem solving if you don't have access to your life, or if you're not taught how to access your life. And the Spinal Cord Injury Association is a wonderful, wonderful resource for anyone who's looking how to problem solve. What resources do I need? Where do I go? What do I do? Spinal cord injury and depression and the anxiety associated with it also increases fatigue, and it lowers your energy level, and it works against wellness. It works against the quality of life and managing your medical conditions. When you start to feel that depression, when you're starting to feel that anxiety, oftentimes that's the main focus, and you forget about taking care of you. And that's one of the things that Eric will be talking about, are those tools for coping. Because one of the things that I find when I'm working with someone is that if their depression and their anxiety and their frustration, their irritability overtakes them, they start to neglect their personal care. It's almost like they lost interest in moving forward. And again, that isolation becomes much more detrimental. And what I like to do is promote accessibility to your life, but also being that teacher, being that informer, letting you know what those resources are. And one of the unfortunate things I often see too is self-medication, where you're feeling so depressed and you're not learning the tools of coping and the strategies for coping in a way that helps you have access to your life, can lead to some pretty destructive choices and behaviors. I want Eric to really spend some time, so I wanted to really go through my slides a little bit more quicker. But one of the things I wanted to mention is that you are confined only by the walls you build yourself. Your spinal cord injury does not have to be a prison sentence. And I can't tell you how many times where I've heard people say, I'm confined to this wheelchair now. This is all that I have, I'm confined. And I never have liked that word, confined to a wheelchair. It makes it sound like you're in a prison versus you are a wheelchair user. You are using a wheelchair to live your life. You are not confined to it. Because when you confine yourself, you are the one building those walls. And again, Eric is going to run through some wonderful strategies to help you cope so that those walls are not constantly being built thicker and thicker and thicker. Let's see.
And people use the term wheelchair bound.
Yes, I hate wheelchair bound. Doesn't it sound like you're tied? Sounds like you're tied to a wheelchair.
Yeah.
But one of the things, though, to mention too is if you ignore that body and emotional connection, you know, you are really doing a disservice to yourself as well. But I want to, though, of course, normalize that anxiety, depression, irritability, frustration are part of the journey. But what we're trying to do is not make them be the only part. And finally,
Sarah, I'm gonna mute her.
I would just like to say thank you to all of you for letting me share a little bit. I know I moved kind of quickly after, but your stories were so important for all of us to hear because you are the teachers. You know, you have taught each other and you're teaching me every day of the best way to manage your spinal cord injury and how it makes you feel and what you feel you could do about it. And going back to our theme, you are not, you are not only, you know, you are not your disability, you are much more, and you are who you define yourself to be. And I wanted to turn it over to Eric because this is the important part of our time tonight. And I wanted to give him as much time as possible to start helping you see possibilities through the tools and having that little toolbox to use. So Eric, I'm going to give it to you. Take it away.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I do have some PowerPoint stuff that I want to go through with everyone. The first part of it, you know, one of the things that we're dealing with is built up emotions. So those emotions that get built up, can you guys see my PowerPoint?
Yes. Yes,
okay,
I do.
good.
Yes.
So one of the things that we're dealing with is the built up emotions. They usually have a non-physical component that can manifest as pain in the body. So when the emotions build up in us, we tend to respond explosively. Also, our response tends to be not kind of, sometimes it's off point. So in other words, normally certain types of conversation would be happy, whereas with a built up emotion, it could be explosive, it could be off point where, oh, I'm feeling sadness even though this is a happy moment. It can also manifest as pain. So psychosomatic pain is something to really consider when having built up emotions. If I have a lot of anger and that anger, you know, I feel it in my jaw, you know, I could feel it in my jaw, it gets very tense. Maybe I feel it in my heart sometimes. Maybe I feel it in my joints. These are aspects of holding on to a perception or an identity of what we think we ought to be, and then wrapping an emotion around it. So one of the things that in mindfulness that I learned, because I've had to deal with this, you know, I've had this type of experience in my life. So some of these tools I'm telling you is, or sharing with you is something that I myself have found useful. So that's why I feel that it could be valuable. So whether it be anger we have towards an events in our past or the fear of the unknown future. So typically depression has to do with a traumatic memory, unforgiveness, anger towards past events, wanting to say, hey, I wish I could have been this, or if I could have been that, or I wish this would have never happened. Those are all aspects of the past. You'll notice it because we all have a story. When we get in a conversation, we have a story we tell. And that story usually is centered around how we identify with our world. Okay, so it's the past that we're using to tell this story. And then when we experience, fear, that has to do with the unknown a lot of times. Like I can tell you right now, if I'm going into a new place and I don't know what the situation is with the bathroom, I mean, that's one of the first things I want to figure out. Because for me, it causes me anxiety because I don't know what I'm going to have to deal with. Okay. And so one of the ways that we can do this so that we're not haunted by the unknown possibilities and also our past is to become present to the moment. Now, let me see, did I miss a screen there? Okay, so being present to the moment, that is an aspect of mindfulness. So I'd like to go through this slide with you a little more in detail, if that's okay. Does everything I say make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And some of this stuff I'm talking about, it's really common sense stuff. I mean, when I'm talking about this stuff, this is stuff that a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, I know this. Okay. The thing that I'm working towards is, in order to implement this stuff into one's life, it requires a discipline. It requires a real habit forming discipline to say, okay, I know what this is. One of the things, like when I used to get really when I get emotional, one of the things I do is I focus on my breathing. That's one example. And I'm going to get more into that, but let's go through this definition of mindfulness, because this is really key to being present and being able to be free of some of the anxiety, depression, the emotions, the buildup that happens. Okay. So it's the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose. So that means you're creating an intent. You're saying, in this moment, this is what I want to do. It's not just occurring magically. You're saying, this is where I want to go. This is where I'm focusing my attention. I am focused on right here, right now. This is what I want. Okay. And so in the present moment, now the present moment is always happening. I mean, just in saying that, a bazillion present moments just happened. I mean, the present is, it can never be clocked, because in talking about it, we're already past it. So the present moment is really getting down to the experience of right now, is the best way I can explain it. It's really engaging. And this is where Annette said, when you disconnect from your emotions, and when you disconnect with that body, mind, and the emotional mind, when you disconnect from that, you are doing yourself a disservice, because you're not engaged with reality. You're not engaged with the world as intimately as you could be. And it shows. It shows. Other people can tell. It has a natural attraction to it to be present. So being present, sometimes it can be very tricky, because it requires really just settling in and being comfortable with right now. And that's not easy to do, especially if you're going through any amounts of change or transition, or you're dealing with bottled up emotions. It can be very difficult. And so this is where the habit forming can really be your friend in the end. It may not seem like you're making progress when you're doing something like this either. But I'm going to tell you, It does take a little bit. It's not a quick fix, but it's a long-term fix. So the effort you spend now has dividends that pay off later. So this is an investment that you make into yourself. So okay, another part of mindfulness, being non-judgmental. All right, so part of being non-judgmental means not judging yourself, and it means not judging others. And that can be a real thing, you know. How easy is it to say, oh yeah, that person cut me off, they're a real blankety blank, you know, or you know, this person slighted me and did me wrong, and so, you know, we're going to talk about that, and that becomes part of our story. Okay, but when we're being mindful, what we're doing is we're saying, hey, let's just even the playing field out for a moment here. You know, we're all human, we're all in this together, no one's better than anyone else at this game. I mean, it's not a game, but it's life. No one's ever better at life. There's no winning at life. Eventually, we're all going to move to another stage of our being, whatever that is. And so this is about taking a moment and being non-judgmental. And there are ways to do that. There are tricks. There are certain tricks that we can do to trick our mind to do this sort of thing, to see this sort of thing. And they're things that you already do. That's what's great, because being mindful is actually a state of mind that you may not even realize that you're doing, but you do. Everyone does it. Everyone does it. Okay, and then non-judgmental to things as they are. So, for example, if I grab up these pair of reading glasses, you know, I can choose to judge them. Oh, these reading glasses, they're smudged, blah, blah, blah. Oh, these are no good. That would be a judgment that I made. Or I could just see them for what they are. They're just a couple pairs of glass that focus my vision and have the potential to help me see better, you know. But even that's a judgment, right? So what is this really? This is just glass and wire. That's all it is. And it has a function, and the function is to help with eyesight. That's it. And so to see things non-judgmentally as they are is to take our own opinion out of that. Okay, so that's what it means. That's the whole thing of mindfulness. It's not just it's not just any one of these. It's all of these put together. But it takes a little bit to get that going. So a couple things to think about when being mindful. Mindful practice has a couple aspects to consider, which include time. So when you have a safe space and sufficient time, meditation is an excellent way to practice being mindful. You can do it with your eyes closed. You can do it with your eyes open, half open. A lot of people focus on breathing when they do meditation. Meditation is also guided by intent. When I sit down and I'm going to meditate, I give myself intent. So why am I meditating? What is the purpose of meditation for me in this moment? Because meditation can become an experience of the present moment now. It can also be very self-reflective. It can also help you see your inner workings. It can also help you to remember what it was like to feel at peace. And that's the thing, we forget. It's so easy to forget. You know, we get into this mode of what we think we are all the time that we forget aspects of what we are also. So if I'm peaceful, that's an aspect that if I haven't felt it for a while, I'll forget that I'm peaceful. If I'm happy, if I have happiness within me and I haven't experienced that for a while, I may forget that I can be happy. And that's supported by the chemicals in our mind, by the way. So the more we focus on something, the stronger we make it. And that's just a fact. If I focus on being angry all the time, then I'm going to reinforce being angry. If I focus on being happy all the time, I'm going to reinforce being happy. If I'm going to be at peace all the time, I'm going to reinforce being peaceful. So you get the gist of that. There's a lot of truth to that. And so when you're meditating, having intent is a wonderful tool. And what it is, intent's like getting on a bus or a roller coaster, but you're not the driver, okay? You're sitting in the back seat. When you set up intent, you say, okay, I am doing this for this reason. So I want to be more peaceful. Okay, let's just say that. So that's my intent. And you let it go. You don't try to say, why am I not at peace? I'm trying to be at peace. Let's be peaceful. No, no, no. When you set intent, it's almost like you create a bubble around yourself that is set up within your mind to bring about that experience. And it takes a little bit of trust and letting go to actually just wait and be there for that moment to occur for you. Okay, so it's not about something we need to grab and get, because that's very easy to do. We're used to doing it. People do that all the time. Oh, I want to grab a this. Oh, I want to grab a that, and and now I have it. But that's not how this works. In order to really be successful at a mindful encounter, is to be willing to let go of what we think we know, what we think we ought to do, what we think we ought to be, to allow ourselves to be, if that makes any sense. Okay, let's move on to the next one here. So mindful meditation. So mindful meditation is an excellent way. Now I'm going to be doing a mindful meditation course in the near future. In October, I'm going to be starting it. You're absolutely welcome to join that. We're going to get in a little more in depth into this stuff. It's a skills-based course. So we'll actually be practicing meditation. We'll be looking at different ways to do it and experience it. It's really an experiential situation. So if you don't have 10 minutes to meditate, what do you do? If I'm emotionally compromised, if I have a lot of emotions right now, what are some of the things that I can do to remedy that? And I'm sure a lot of people know stuff that they can do. What's one thing that you do to help when you become overwhelmed with anger? Anyone want to volunteer?
Breathe.
Breathe. Excellent. So let me focus on that for a second, Valerie. When you're really angry and you're breathing, tell me how you do that. What do you do? What do you focus on? What do you do? How do you do it? What do you pay attention to?
I try to listen to my breathing.
Okay.
And focus just on that and not what is panicking me or angering me, and taking as deep breaths as I can and kind of identifying what it is that I'm feeling.
Yep.
And saying, okay, it's there. I see it. It's okay. And I have a right to feel this way, but I'm safe. I'm okay. And I need to focus on the being okay, not what is panicking me at that exact moment.
That's a wonderful example. That is a beautiful example of mindfulness right there. That's a beautiful demonstration of it. Yeah. One of the things that, and it's something you could be in a crowd, you can be in a crowd with this. If you start having anxiety, some of these things that we're going to look at real quick, you could actually be in a crowded room and no one would ever know that this is happening. And breathing is an excellent way to do that. Focusing on your breath, really getting detail orientated about one's breathing, where you focus on breathing in through the nose, and then you just feel the air going through your lungs. And then when you're breathing out, you're feeling it maybe go out your mouth. So the more detailed you can get, the more your brain's going to start to do that switch where the emotion will start to dissolve away for you. So that's a beautiful example. That's a beautiful example. Thank you, Valerie. Sarah?
Yeah, one of the things that I do, and I'll just show you real quick here, is what I do to as part of calming, that's very calming and soothing, is I take these gel pens and I color with them.
That is an excellent way. With that, I'm sure, if I'm feeling like an emotion and doing crafts and stuff, oh, that's a wonderful way to just kind of let all that go, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of gel pens here at home that I use.
Yep. No, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. And now when you do that, do you feel the emotions leave, or what happens?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay. Well, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That is a great way. So, any sort of art, singing and drawing, or playing an instrument, any of those sort of things where it requires concentration, that is another way that you can facilitate your emotions through that. So, some of the most famous painters, they were very tortured emotionally, but that's how they express themselves through their painting, and their human condition. And who's that? Rembrandt? No, who's the one that does the sunflowers? I forget. What?
Van Gogh.
Van Gogh, yes.
Van Gogh.
He was emotionally tormented, that man. And but he could see colors in ways that people probably don't see. And so having extraordinary abilities sometimes also can be very hindering as well. Anyone else have any examples?
What was the question again?
You're gonna ask me to remember the question. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you do to calm down when you feel a lot of emotions? So if you're getting emotionally compromised, if you know that you're, very angry or very sad or very depressed, what do you do to help get out of that?
I clean.
Clean. I love that.
I clean.
Clean. I love that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm liable to kill somebody.
Yep. Cleaning is a mindful activity.
Yeah.
I think they call that Zen. Actually, it's a Zen activity because, this is like raking stones or raking sand or washing dishes or, and doing it with intent and detail. This is a great way to alleviate some of the emotions. That's great. That's great. Sharon, did you have one you were going to say?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I either like to go outside or because I'll be screaming like bloody murder with my kids sometimes that I just go nutty. Sometimes,
right.
It can be, I told my children this the other day, and I know it sounds, because it's not one of the things on self-medicating, but I says, first ask me if I've taken my meds, because if I haven't taken my meds,
right,
my pain level's already like way up high.
Yep.
I have no patience whatsoever. And so I'm like, the first thing you should ask me is, Mommy, you taking your meds? And that usually will, okay, I need to take, because my nerve pain is too high because I'm too busy and I forget it. And then, and then I'll just, the second is like, don't interrupt me when I'm, in the middle of something, because too much thrown at me at once, I can't do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely relate with that, because Lourdes is the same way as so am I. If I get interrupted, I get totally sidetracked.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, I'm working with one. I can't do both because then I want to be fully present.
Yep.
With, with whoever I'm with. This is their time, and I will get to you at some point, but I just can't, right now. But sometimes I really just like to go outside and just sit there and just be just don't bother me. Either the house has to be on fire, or
Yep.
someone's breaking into the house. Don't come near me.
And that's a great self-care, by the way.
Yeah.
Being able to walk away and saying, hey, I need my
I need
5
time
minutes
out.
here.
Yeah, I need time out.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm tapping out. I'm just tapping out.
Yep. And that's about, that's really about being, really responsible about who you are and saying, knowing that you don't want to explode at these people and saying, look, I just need 5 minutes. So that's awesome. Well, I'd like to show a couple things here that I've learned. One was the focus on breathing. So we talked about that. But there's a couple other ones. There's finding uniqueness in the ordinary. So everyone here is in a familiar place because we're all in places that we live. So we're in a place we're very familiar with. However, I'm going to ask you to do one thing. I would like for you to look around the room and notice one thing that you had not noticed about your room. Just one thing. Find one thing in your surroundings right now that you'd never noticed.
Oh, wow.
And look, it's going to take you a little bit, but just find one thing that you were not aware of in your room.
That's hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah, you can look everywhere. You can look on the ceiling. You can actually, you know what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 12, 13. Okay, so I found something that I was not aware of in my room, and for me, it's very difficult because I spend a lot of time in this room as well. I have a air conditioning grate up here, and there's 17 slots. I literally had to count them to see, but for me, that I had yet to count those.
Oh.
Kind of like counting the bricks in a house, It's just I had never counted that, so I thought, well, okay, that's what I'll do.
Now you know we're all going to be doing that, don't you?
I know. I'm counting the grates.
Well, I'm just trying to show you that there are examples that you can, these are things that as comfortable as we get with our surroundings, looking for that new thing right there, that's something you can do. You can be in a crowd and look at this. I actually worked with a couple clients that they would get severe anxiety being in a crowd. And I gave them this exercise. And I said, when you're feeling anxious, use this exercise. And what they would do is they would go out into a crowd and they would immediately look for anything new, like 5 new things that they had not noticed. Because our awareness is like a tunnel. It's based upon how we see the world is basically it. Our prejudices, what we like, what we don't like, all these things. If we're hungry, we're going to be attracted to food. If we want a vacation, we'll be attracted to that beautiful picture, stuff like that. And so our awareness is always searching and looking for the presets of what we set up. Valerie?
I read something very similar to what you said about finding 5 things. When you get into a state like that, find 5 things that you can see with your eyes. They don't have to be new. Identify 5 things you can see with your eyes. 5 things you can smell.
Oh, that's
5
good.
things you can touch.
Yeah.
Heard of that one.
5 things you can, what else did I miss? Hear.
Right.
Something with all of your senses that makes you focus on sight, sound, touch, feel, smell, because doing that distracts you a little bit into focusing on what you are in the middle of.
Yep, and the more you focus on that, the more you can turn your attention to, the more of your mind you can turn to that exercise, the more the emotion is going to wash over you, like as if a wave had hit you, and then it'll just kind of subside and move through you. It takes a little bit of effort. However, with some practice, it actually will start to be less and less. If you do it every time that happens, if you do it, it'll allow it to just kind of fade away faster and faster and faster, because you're putting your attention to something else that you're making stronger. And so that's why where the habit's really going to kick in. I do have one other exercise that I'd like to bring up. Can I have everyone grab a simple object like a pen or something that's right around them? Some sort of object that is small, not a phone, not a phone.
Got a phone. Sorry.
Something simple. No, I didn't clarify, but something simple, okay?
Scissors.
Okay. So this is another exercise that you can do. You can do it completely within, in mixed company. Doesn't matter. No one has to know. This is another thing you can do that can be very helpful if you're in the moment and you need to regulate your emotions. So what you do is you look at this object, which is a pen for me. It's a little dark in this room, so I'm having a hard time seeing it. But what I would do is I would look at it as if I'm going to recreate it. So what I'd like you to do is imagine you're going to recreate the object that you have in your hand. And you're going to recreate it exactly, not brand new, exactly. So with all the scratches in it and the faded paint, any dings it has into it, any imperfections, you're going to recreate that too. And if you look really closely, I want you to look and get in your mind how you would recreate that, okay? And what imperfections are there first? And then how would you do it? And if you're not sure how you would do it, look at the objects themselves. Maybe there's just different components to what you're holding, or maybe it's one solid component. And really looking at it, or let's say you're an artist and I'm asking you to draw me a three-dimensional picture of it. I need you to reproduce it exactly three-dimensional as an artist. So you would have to look at everything here. I have this green bit on here I can see through. The top end has a white clip on it. It's got like this rubber part that makes it easier to hold, and I got this cap, it unscrews. So, and when I unscrew it, it turns a couple different things here, and just really look at it. And as you pay attention to recreating this as if you're an artist, this is another way that you can utilize your mind to help alleviate emotional pressure. Okay, and so these are just a couple tricks that I use to help me when I'm feeling overwhelmed by emotions. Now, there is another aspect I want to talk about, because as someone who has a disability myself, I can really relate to this. And with our current setup with the government and Social Security and how to survive with or without it, it's a real struggle. But one of the things that's really difficult, and it contributes to depression actually, and it can contribute to anxiety too, because if you're not knowing what you're doing your next day, and it can really get at a person. But it's about rebuilding and restructuring your life. Okay, you've had your injury, you're in your certain situation, and you want more. You know, there comes a point where you're like, I want more in my life. I want to feel better about my life. And I'm not saying that you don't feel better. I'm just saying a lot of times what happens is we get to a point where we say, I want to have a little more control in my life. And I want to design my life a little more. I don't want everyone taking over all this stuff. So what are some of the things that we can do? Well, I made up some levels. And these are levels to help create meaning and purpose in one's life, which is so important, because having meaning and purpose in life, it builds on itself. When you create a meaning and a purpose in your life, you know, it can be scary, but it also can be very rewarding, and it can give you what you need to make it through the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day. It can be very rewarding in that way. And it can create a path in one's life. Now, I pulled up this, and this is Maslow's level of hierarchy. So these are the different levels in Maslow's chart, okay? And it starts from the bottom here, which is your psychological needs, your breathing, food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep. And then your
We're
next
not
is,
seeing that.
you're not
No,
seeing
we're
it?
not seeing that.
We're seeing something that says no title.
Oh, really? Okay. Let me,
Sorry.
no, this is good. Let me stop sharing my screen, and I'll try to reshare it here. Is that any
Oh, there
better?
it is. It's
Yep.
there.
There you go.
Okay,
let's
sorry
see
about
here.
that. So this is a Maslow's his theory on how to become self-actualized, okay?
Yeah.
And we have to go through the basics before we can move up to self-actualization. So the basics are breathing, food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep. And then it moves up health, employment, property, family, social stability. And then right in the middle here, family, friendship, intimacy, sense of connection, and then confidence, achievement, respect of others, and then morality, creativity, spontaneity, and acceptance. So these are all levels of self-actualization, okay? Now, when one becomes injured, this suffers, because now you have to set up a new identity and figure out how you're going to get through your day. So you have to start with the beginning again. You know, you have to, how am I going to function? How am I going to go to the bathroom? What am I going to do? You know, am I going to make my own meals? Does someone else have to do it? You know, you have to go through all that stuff just for survival. So this is really about survival, this first level. And then you move up from there. So what I did is I created different levels that can be goals for yourself, goals that you can look to achieve for yourself every single day. And these goals can help you move and create meaning and purpose. So I'm just going to go through these pretty quickly, actually, and then we'll be done. So the level one. So I will clean myself by brushing my teeth, bathing, shaving, and combing my hair today. I will change and wear fresh clothes today. I'll drink an ample amount of water, which is so important in Arizona, but just overall. Actually, you can actually feel better by drinking more water. It can, now of course you don't want to drink too much, because you can actually drown yourself. That has actually happened. But having a balanced amount of water in your system helps you to process all your internal bodily fluids and your digestion and all that stuff. So having a good amount of water can help with that. But also you can feel better, and that can make you happier. I will at least eat one healthy meal a day. So, you know, I go through the day, and maybe in the morning I drink something that has electrolytes and stuff in it, and maybe I eat an oatmeal in the morning, and maybe at lunch, maybe I have a sandwich, and maybe in the evening I don't eat very much, but at least one time during the day I did have a sandwich, you know, and so having one good meal a day can really make a difference, because your blood sugars really get affected. Okay. Be consciously aware of the breathing today. You know, you're still breathing. Being aware of that actually helps to put you in a mindful state naturally. So being aware of your breathing, not even necessarily changing anything, just be aware of it. Feel it coming into your body, feel it going into your lungs, feel what your lungs are doing, feel the work that you have to do to make this happen. This is all stuff that, you know, you're a part of. You know, you could choose to stop breathing. You can just stop, you know, and your body will eventually take over. There, you know, your body, your breathing is set up that way where it'll automatically take over in most cases. And then I will regulate my sleep habits today. All right, so one of the things that is very important is sleeping on a regular schedule. It's so easy when we don't have anything to do to just float around with our sleep schedule. Oh, well, I'm not doing anything, so I'm going to go to bed when I want to, and I'm going to go to sleep when I want to. Well, if you don't set up a schedule, it really can mess with your sense of well-being. So having a schedule is really, really important. As a counselor, that's one of the first things I look at is this stuff right here. I look at that stuff right there with the person. Are they taking care of themselves? Are they sleeping on a regular basis? These are just questions we ask, but they're very telling questions, because people can feel psychotic if you don't sleep on a regular basis. Some people try to stay up for days. You know, I don't recommend it. Okay, so let's go to the next one here. So level 2, I will manage my health and well-being today. So you're going to your appointments, you're making sure that you're taking care of stuff. Sometimes, you know, if we notice like a pressure wound or something like that, I know it's real fearful at times, because you're like, oh, you know, now I got to go to the doctor, and I don't want to do that. You know, and so this is something that, you know, you are creating your own meaning and purpose right now, because you're taking care of yourself, and you're worthy of taking care of yourself. That's real important to realize that. You are worthy of taking care of yourself. Whatever level you're at, you're worthy of it. You're still here. You're still alive. You're worthy of it. I will engage with my family today. All right. During this COVID, very easy to self-isolate. Very easy to lose connection with the people that matter in our life, the people who support us, the people who love us, the people who want to be a part of our lives. I will engage with my friends today. Important to do. You know, our friendships help create identities that we use to support our own well-being. Okay, so connecting with your friends, even if it's just calling to say hi. And you know what? A lot of times they're glad to hear from you, because they're lonely too. They want to hear from you. They want to have that connection, you know? So it's a commitment on both sides, you know, and it shouldn't be one-sided, you know. They should want to call you once in a while. I will clean my home today. Okay, that's a big one. I got to admit, I fall short a little bit on this one. But it is a part of this, okay? With a clean home, when you clean your home, you feel good. You know, you get done and you're like, wow, okay. You know, if I clean just one room, it sparkles a little more for me. It gives me that little, wow, okay, I want to go back in that room again because it's nice. But then again, I dirty it up and now I have to clean it again. It's a never-ending process. So, but cleaning home can really feel good. I will continue to work today. All right. There is a lot out there in the world. If you want to do something, it's out there. It's out there. You may have to volunteer. You may not have the glorious jobs, but if you want to get out in your community and make a difference, there are ways to do that. And you don't have to have a certain whatever to do it. Okay. I will pay my bills today. Very easy to ignore bills, you know. If you're able to pay your bills, you pay your bills, or make a schedule to pay your bills. You know, you can, I get my funds on this day and this day, and you make a schedule. I will plan for financial future today. You can plan for your future, you know, even if it's $5 that goes into a dish. Again, you're creating a long-term goal for yourself now. You know, you're creating a financial future. You're creating a goal for yourself. And in doing that, you're creating meaning and purpose. You're creating a reason to live. Okay. So let's move to the next level. Okay, this one is a good one. I will find a moment to be intimate with someone today, with someone. Okay, it can be this easy. I could look at someone and I could literally, in my mind, I could say, I love you. That is an action of intimacy that you could share with people. They don't have to necessarily know it either. It can be that simple. You could bless them. You could say, I bless you for this moment. I hope your day is going well. You know, that is an intimate moment, because at that moment, all you're doing is you're wishing this person better in their life. I will cultivate a relationship to develop trust and intimacy. I cannot stress this enough, how important that is. We all need each other. That's just, it's simple as that. We all need each other. I'll engage with activities and relationships that I feel passionate about. So I'm going to tell you, that took me a long time. But to find something that you jive with, that you like in your life, that you want, that's a great area to go. You know, focus on that, because you'll find that you'll feel more alive when you're doing it. And then realize that, oh yeah, I will practice being grateful today. That is a very simple statement. You know, how many things can we be grateful for today? You know, you could look, I'm surrounded by all this technology in my room that allows me to talk to people. I'm so grateful that I'm able to have this. I'm so grateful that I can talk to people. It's that easy. We can create those grateful moments. And it's so easy to take for granted what we have around us. And so being grateful can help change our disposition too. It can help give us more confidence. It can help us be okay with who we are right here, right now. And then realize that creating meaning and purpose is taking care of myself, which will enrich other people's lives. So when you're taking care of yourself, you're actually providing opportunities for other people to engage with yourself and to add to their life as well. So there is meaning in that. You know, when you take care of yourself, you're also giving an opportunity to others as well. The time is getting short, but I'm going to go through these last two real quick. Level 4, I will make short, medium, long-term goals that align with my passions today. So making goals for yourself, you know, having the goals that you can reach. We're never too old for goals. No matter what I do in my life, I'm never, you know, I started a podcast because I wanted to have something to do. So I did that. You know, I mean, there are things that we can work towards, and we don't have to have it all at once, but you work towards it. And if you got a goal, then you can take little teeny steps towards that goal. And I can tell you, just the littlest step makes the biggest difference of my day. Anytime I can take a microscopic step towards my goal, big. I will expend effort towards my goal. I will practice compassion today. Okay, compassion, you know, it's so easy to look out into the world and see negative stuff. But a lot of times it's about you know, like when I'm feeling compassion, it's my choice to not avoid the world anymore. It's my choice to actually engage and feel what is going on with the world. Another person's feeling pain, I feel pain. That sadness, I relate to that sadness. I can relate to other people's trauma, and I can relate to what's going on in their life. My compassion allows me to be sympathetic to what is going on and to realize that I'm really not alone. is really compassion allows us to realize our humanness with each other. All right, and the struggles that we have. All right, level 5, I accept myself today for who and what I am. Being who you are right here, right now is who you are. And accepting that is a great way to let go of the past and to move forward into the unknown future. And if you start, when you start there, then you're truly starting at where you're at. Sometimes we try to jump ahead and be like, no, but I want this now. I want to be this. How am I ever going to be this? You know, you start where you're at right now. That's the only way you can make steps towards where you need to go. And then I'll practice forgiveness of myself and others so that I may move forward today. It's amazing how much anger we can hang on to without forgiving ourselves and without forgiving others. And just a note on forgiveness. Forgiveness is not saying, oh, I allow that and I'll allow that to happen again. Forgiveness is about you moving forward. When I forgive, I do it for me. I don't do it for the other person. I do it for me. I forgive me. I forgive that other person and I forgive me. I forgive that other person and I'm smarter for it. So now I know not to do that in the future. Okay. I forgive me for not realizing what was going on and maybe I did something or maybe I didn't. But I'm going to forgive myself so that I don't have to carry that burden with me anymore. Forgiveness is such a powerful tool. It's one of the tougher tools out there to apply to one's life because it takes an authentic moment to say that to oneself. For it to really work, it takes being very authentic with yourself and saying, you know, I really can't do this anymore. I need to forgive myself. I need to forgive that person because it's ruining my life, or it's if want it to be affecting me. So that's an example of what forgiveness would sound like. And I know I'm doing a lot of talking. It's just we're running up right until the end here, and normally I'd want to be more involved with people on this too. But the last part, creating meaning and purpose gives a person a reason to live, to move on, to thrive. So that's one thing. We all can thrive. Remember that you're the director of your own life and you are the one living it, not someone else. Okay? And that's what I got.
Okay.
That's a lot.
That's great.
So anyways, that's our class for today. Thank everyone for showing up. Arizona Spinal Cord Injury put this on. Annette was very kind to come here and share her time with me, and so that we could do this together. And she's a giant in the field. She's wonderful.
Thank you.
And everyone here with the spinal cord injury, you know, you guys all make this happen. Karen and Sharon, they make this happen. They promote it, you know, and then everyone here that signed up, that agreed to show up and has been here through the whole thing. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah.
I hope there was something you could take away from this. And then look to our website, look to our Facebook page. We're going to be, I'm going to be doing a mindfulness course. We're going to have some other activities we were planning today. So we're going to have some future stuff that we're going to be doing. And Karen, did we decide, are we going to be doing the parade in Tempe or not? Are we doing? We're not going to do that.
We're not going to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
So, because they're changing it up this year, the way they're doing the parades is they're having people where you sit with your float and then people walk by.
Oh.
So they're doing a reverse parade.
Yeah. Which.
So it's kind of like a fairground sort of situation to where we sit here and we still do stuff. But I think we don't want to put our community at risk. I think that's some of the reason. Is that right, Karen?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because we'll just sit there with the float and all lit up and just people will be walking by.
Unless I got a Nerf gun, and then I'd be happy with it.
Yeah. Honestly, it makes no sense to me. why they're doing it that way, but I don't make the rules, so
Yeah.
we'll come up with something else, and then we'll be back next year
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
for it, so.
Yeah. What a great evening, though. What a wonderful way of sharing this evening with you. This was great. So
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
everyone.
guys for putting this on.
Well, yeah, and that's thank you for showing up, everyone. Yeah.
All right.